Hey guys, welcome to my Wyoming Backcountry Discovery Route Adventure Ride series. We're going to talk about a lot of stuff here. We went through bikes, we went through route planning. Today we're going to go through stoves, we're going to go through chairs, and we're going to go through a first aid kit. Stay tuned and we're going to cover a whole lot more. Let's get started. All right, today we're going to talk about a lot of the gear, and right now we're going to talk about stove options. I'm going to talk about three. Kind of doing everything in threes, but three stove options for your adventure travels. And let's get started with that. Number one, this is a Burton stove. And if you take a look at it, it is a stove that will burn basically any kind of fuel. I've got the fuel canister here. What you see in the background right here, this screws into the fuel canister. And if you've got white gas, if you have diesel, if you have gasoline, it'll burn them all. And this is what it looks like set up. You need to bring a pot to boil your water or cook whatever you're going to cook. You have lots of options for what you're cooking because it's large enough the base is large enough to hold a big pot. So you could boil water, you could make eggs and bacon and things like that. You cook up a little trout, things like that. Excuse me. The downside to this setup is a couple. One, you have to bring liquid gas with you, which is pretty easily refillable because you can use any kind of gas. It's really loud. These things make a lot of noise. So first thing in the morning, it can wake everybody up. That's good or bad. And third, you need a lot of other stuff. So you need to bring a pot. You need to bring some kitchenware, spatula, spoon, things like that to cook whatever you're going to cook in there, unless you're just boiling water. And then a longer than just a match, or a little lighter, because when you light these, they tend to flame up quite a bit, and then you bring the flame down and adjust it once it warms up. So that's number one. Also, I'd say the downside, I still have my cough from my getting sick a few weeks ago, so pardon me on that. So the size of this, and I'm going to show you what that looks like packed when we get done here. I'll pack them all up so you can see that. This is the lightest option right here, and some people call these pocket rockets. The stove is actually just this piece right here and fits in this little tiny bag right here. This one, I think, what is the name of that? I can't even, BKS. These stoves are super tiny, super light. You need to bring some kind of in this case, it's a cup, a pot, everything all in one. It has the lid with it as well. It's made out of titanium, super lightweight. We have a titanium spork. And then this, which is called a hot lips, you stick on the edge so that you don't burn your lips when you're drinking your coffee or whatever out of that. And you kind of use this all in one, everything you're going to do. So you're only boiling water and pouring it in one of those the boil in a bag type things. You can't really cook in that very well because it's pretty small. You could make it big, you could get a bigger one if you wanted to, but that's kind of the smallest option. Everything fits in this little pack right here. All right, moving on. One of my favorites, actually my favorite for backpacking right there. This is the next, and it's the Jetboil system. And it comes with everything except for those two items here, but you still need those, and I'll tell you why. But it comes with a cup. And it comes with an extra burner plate that you can put on top. So if you want to use a pot like on the other one, you still can. But everything's kind of contained in this Jetboil. This screws on to the top of here. This screws onto your gas container. And then it has a foot base so it keeps it more secure on the ground. The Jetboil is insulated, so it's got this insulated sleeve on it. And for a long time, this little indicator here would tell you when your water is hot inside, and it would change colors. That no longer does that. This is pretty old, but it still is very insulative. And then you've got this nice lid that you can actually pour out of, so you don't have to pull it off, and it holds quite a bit of water. So you can do a boil in a bag out of that. You could cook up some things in there as well. I usually do boil in the bag with these types of things. And then I bring along a cup so that I can keep boiling water, do a boil in a bag, or make my oatmeal here and have a cup of coffee, or do my oatmeal in here and have a cup of coffee here. And this REI cup, which they just don't make anymore, which is too bad, has measuring on the back side. This little cup that they give you with it also has a measuring. You just have to figure out where the indicator is. And there's lines on the side here. So yeah, there's lines on this side. I can hardly read them, but they're there. And then of course a titanium spork. This one's not titanium. This one's just aluminum. But this one is extra long for your boil in the bag, so you're not getting your hand dirty every time. All right, what's my favorite? It kind of depends. I never bring this one anymore because it's just too bulky. I have to bring the extra gas. It takes longer to set up, and you're gonna see how big it is once I put it together. This one I love for backpacking, and I do take it on my adventure travels when I want to travel quite light, and you're going to see why, because how small it is. Everything fits in this little thing. This has been my go-to for many, many years, and that's the Jetboil. It just works so well. It boils water so fast. You pretty much can't get faster than this setup. Well, I thought it might be a good idea to show you just how these things are taken apart and what effort it takes. So let's go with the Jetboil. And the Jetboil I can take off the stand. I can unscrew the top. This part tucks in. The little stand comes off, and it takes some effort sometimes. Oh, there we go. All right. And then we fold that up. The little legs fold in. And then we've got all the pieces here. Take the top off of this, and the first thing that's going to go in is our gas container. Gas container goes in. Next piece that goes in is this. And we slide that in. And then we've got this piece that goes in. That's going to slide in over the top of that. The last piece is this. And it goes right in here. See, I think I might go in this way. Let's get these things a little messed up. There we go. And then the top on. And then the cup goes on the bottom, and that is your Jetboil. The only thing you have left is your long spork that you need with it. That's the Jetboil. All right, let's move on. And this is what they call the pocket rocket system and all of that. So we're gonna do this one next. Pretty simple on this one because we've got our pot. Take the top off. We want to take the little pocket rocket off of the gas container. Pretty simple, just like that. These little things all fold in on each other, just like that, kind of a puzzle. And then this little piece folds down. That's it. That's your whole stove. That stove goes in the little green container here. Let's get that in there. Whoop. All right. You want your gas container inside the pot, your hot lips inside there. Just slide it down between the pot and the gas container. Your little pocket rocket goes in there. Lighter goes in here. And if you use a smaller spork, it'll go in here, but this one's not going to go in there. You put the top on, and then we've got smaller ones than that. And then the whole thing will go in. Fold the handles in. The whole thing goes in the bag here. This one is probably the simplest. Even though it seems like it's taking me forever to put it in here, it's probably the simplest and easiest. So then everything's going to be in here, and if you use a smaller spork, that's going to be in there as well. You can bring an extra cup with any of those. The next one, guys, is the big one. So this is kind of everything here. And of course the pot, you're going to put whatever. This is not probably a lightweight pot, so you're probably not bringing that, but you'd have to have a pot of some sort. And then what we need to do is fold this thing up, and all of these legs fold one way or the other. So they fold into this way. This folds around, just turn this all the way around until it gets to be one piece like that. And I've already just assumed you've taken, this goes inside the bottle like that, so you'd have taken that out. And let it dry out a little bit because there'd be some fuel on here, and you don't want that smelling up your bag. That goes in here, you close it up, you've got your fuel and your utensils and your pot and your big lighter. And that is your setup for that one. All right, so what one do I like the best? I will bring I'm gonna bring this one, I believe, which is my Jetboil, and that's the one I'm gonna bring just because I want a little extra, a little bit more than this for a 2-week trip. It's 15 days, and so that's the one I'm gonna bring. All right, guys, another thing to consider is bringing a chair. So 2 week, 15-day, even a 10-day, 3 days even. Having a chair to sit in when you get to your camp is just fantastic. So you're not sitting on a rock. I see people bring the little pads where it's just little pads so you can sit on your butt and you've got a little pad to sit on. But man, I want to lean back against something and I don't want it to be a rock when I get to camp. So I'm going to give you 3 examples of chairs that I bring with me, and we'll set them up so you can see what they are like. They're a little bit different. One of them's very similar to the others. But let's take a look at setting these up really quick. See if you can see them here. There we go. All right, so this way you can see. I'm gonna start with the smallest one. This is the first one that I purchased when I got into adventure travel. And it is a light. It's got a little butterfly on it. So one of the originals. It's pretty small. It feels like it weighs about a pound. Pretty lightweight. And it can fit in one of your panniers. It could even fit in a backpack. So there you got that. That's the case it comes in. And then you've got this sort of little erector set to put together. And you put that together. And this is not a freestanding chair. So you're going to see how I put this thing together. Or at least I'm going to see how I put this thing together. And they've color coded, so just plain silver and then yellow. And then it was nice enough then to color code the chair as well. And they've got these little yellow things here and then silver on the other end. So we're going to go ahead and put the yellow ones on first. Here's the yellow one. Let's see if I do this the right way. And the yellow one here. Well, better if I turn this in the right direction. Let's do yellow, yellow, yellow here. And a yellow here. And then we're going to do the top side, and there's a little bit of compression when you put this together. So you put the first one on, and then you put the second one on there like that. And like I said, it's not a freestanding chair, so it falls over until you sit in it. And let me show you what that's like when you sit in it here. Here we go. See if I can fall down on this chair. Now, so basically you just place it under your butt, sit down, and you've got yourself a chair to sit in. Sitting by the campfire, sitting around camp, you get all that lean back, and it's actually really comfortable. With just 2 legs, it's got a pretty good base on them. Doesn't really sink in the sand that much, so it stays pretty level. That's been my go-to chair for a long time. One thing that you see when I stand up, you feel like my wife said, you kind of look like a pregnant lady getting out of a chair. She's got some experience with that one. All right, what is our next one? The next one I bought was from REI, and this is a Flex Light chair from REI. Now, REI made more than one. They look all identical, and the only way to tell is go there and set them up. But they make the legs 2 different directions. I'm going to show you. I think they're one way is wrong, so I'll show you how this works. So you got to get it out of this bag first. There we go. And you can tell that's going to be tougher to get back in. Got the bag, and again we got another little erector set. This one's a little bigger. Probably weighs double what the other one does. And you're putting it all together. It's got these little bungee cords. If those get loose, you can re-tie them a little tighter, which this one probably needs to be done. It's quite a few years old. And then the chair is freestanding, so it's going to stand up just like that, if you can see that. Let me give you a better view. So that's what that's going to look like. And this one, you just have to figure out what is the top and what is the bottom with your chair. And then you start setting it up. So I think it's the label here, REI, that goes at the top. So we'll put that one at the top. Same kind of thing. There's these little sleeves. They're not color coded on this chair. And we slide them into the little sleeves. Oh, there we go. Slide that one in, and it's a bit of a compression. fit again to put these on. So you gotta flex the chair a little bit to get it on there. And there's your chair. Let's see what that one's like. And here we go. So this one, I can just sit on the floor and I can sit down in. And so that's pretty comfortable. It's a little bit higher off the ground. The legs on it is what I was going to talk to you a little bit about. You can see that these legs, there's a leg here and a leg back there that are pointed. And let me just show you here a little bit better. They're pointed this way and that way. And that kind of keeps you from falling over backwards. And it's enough on side to side to keep you from falling side to side. Now, the interesting thing is they also made these with the legs the opposite way. And it just looks wrong, and people tend to fall over a bit more. But these legs are pretty small. The little bases on them are pretty small, so they do sink in the sand, unlike the other one where they don't. And so if you're sitting in the sand, the chair will tend to squat one way or the other. You got to find a good firm place to set that down on. All right, that is the REI chair. And then this is the latest one. I actually bought this for my wife for her going kayak camping and backpacking with me. And this is very similar to the other one. It's just Big Angus rather than REI. And you'll notice it's a lot easier to get in and out of this bag because the zipper goes all the way down. Now this one also has the same erector set, but you'll notice the legs are bent a little bit. We'll still figure out how we put this thing together. And same thing with the legs, put those together. And little legs go through here. There's a little slot, I don't know if you can see that. A little slot here, and then a slot like that. And that slides through. You'll find the same thing on this side. You slide those together. And so you're going to do the same thing all around it. You'll see there's another little slot right there. That slides through, and that slides together. Okay. We need to do the same thing on this side. We're going to do that from this side of the table here. That slides together. This one slides together. And then we've got that set up. And this is a freestanding chair again. Just the legs have a little bit of a twist to them. And it makes it for a bit wider of a chair to sit in. And then we have to find the top, and there is the Big Angus label, which is going to go at the top. We put the small end on first. They are color coded. It's silver. And the other ones are black. And a bit of a compression fit again. Pull that together. And there's our chair. So much like the REI chair, this one stands even a little bit taller. And let's set that on the floor and take a look at that one. And we can just set it down. And we set it. It just has a little bit more of a bucket feel than the REI chair. And it feels a little bit more sturdy because those legs bend out a little bit. So definitely like this one the best of all of them. It feels sturdy because the legs don't twist, and it's a little bit wider. Now, getting them all back in the bags, and that is always the challenge. All right, we're gonna start with the Big Angus, and we'll pull that out of all of its little pieces. You slide the legs apart, and take them all out so that they fold in. We'll do that the same on the other side. Basically just hold them together the best you can. And what we're going to do is fold this in half. I figured one way or the other. Trying to do it with one hand. And then we're just going to roll the whole thing together in the chair. And hopefully just slide it back in the bag. That is piece of cake. That one's done. One and done. All right, so now let's get to the REI. This one is the most challenging because you've got to stuff it in the stuff sack. But we're going to do the same thing. Flop over the chair, pull it out of its little pieces, Put this aside. Now the same thing with these, we want to pull all these out. Set them all to the center. Like that. And then what we want to do is fold this one in half as well. And we are going to roll it as tight as humanly possible to try and get it in the stuff sack. All right, here we go. Without losing your grip on it, because if you do, you're never getting it in that stuff sack. So far it's going in. And you have to be careful. You push down on it, you'll push the chair in, but not the, you'll push the frame in, but not the chair. And then you have to start over again. So try to get it as far in as possible, then shove it the rest of the way in. There we go, pull the tie, and that one is done. Last but not least, this is the, I don't even know if you guys can see that, it has a little butterfly on it, a light. Pull this one out as well, and we're going to follow kind of the same process. And that is fold everything in on itself. This way it feels like a piece of origami or something. And I think I've got it. Okay, fold it in. And the same thing with this one, you want to fold it pretty tight. It's the same thing, it's a stuff sack. So the tighter you can get in there, the better. Here's our stuff sack. And this one is going to go in, no problem. There we go. And there we go. All done. All right, let's get to the next thing. All right, guys, since we're doing kind of 3 things at a time, as far as our gear goes, the last thing I want to talk to you today about is medical kits or first aid kits. And I'm only going to show you 2. Definitely not an expert in the first aid world. So one great source is call your doctor and say, hey, I'm looking for a first aid kit for however many days you're going. And a lot of these kits that are made for how many people. So those 1 to 6 people, up to 7 days. That's a kit like this. This kit right here is really meant for sort of a day hike. That's something like that. And then I kind of wanted to talk about, I always bring a flashlight somewhere. And what I've done with this flashlight, just a tiny little flashlight like that. And I put a piece of Velcro on the back of it so I can stick it in one of my panniers or one of my gear bags, and also possibly in my tent, wherever I want to stick a piece of Velcro so that I know where it is and it stays there. That's a good piece of safety equipment right there. Let's go through these kits really quick. So a trail, you're going out for one day and you're doing a little hike and you just go buy one of these little kits. They kind of have a bunch of Band-Aids in it. They'll have some sterile wipes. They'll have blister pads. Okay, they'll have scissors for some reason. I don't know why you need the scissors because there's really nothing in here to cut, except for the moleskin, which, so I could see a tongue depressor for some reason. I don't know. And more antiseptic wipes. Really, they're thinking you're gonna skin your knee and you're gonna get hurt. There's some aspirin in here as well. Usually there's some stuff for your stomach in here. So that's ibuprofen, that's aspirin. Usually they'll have like little tabs in here for, you know, if you get acid reflux or something like that. Lots and lots of Band-Aids, things for blisters, and or these are like the ointments that you put on a wound. What is this one? That is a soap towelette, so you can actually clean up. And more of these little skin things for blisters, and then moleskin, and this is to prevent blisters, and that's probably why they have the scissors in here. Other than that, they're going to give you a little bit of tape and a little clothespin. That's it. So that's kit number 1. That's really meant for hikes and stuff. Hey, if you got nothing else, having one of these along, at least you're going to be able to put a Band-Aid on your cut when you get one. Now this is supposed to be meant for from 1 to 6 people for, I think it said 7 days, up to 7 days. They give you a list on the back of what's in it, and then when you open it up, this is kind of a nice setup because of the way when you finally open it up, it has labels and it tells you this is for burns and blisters, this is the bleed center, bleeding CPR, so they're going to have that stuff in here. If you do a fracture or a sprain, that should be in this part. There's manuals and medication, things like that in this, where you're going to have your scissors, you're going to have your tweezers, you're going to have a couple of these disposable thermometers. It has a book in here for wilderness travel and safety and medical emergencies while you're on the trail. That's a pretty nice little thing to have. There are some things like ibuprofen, aspirin, and things for like Tums in here. You also want to add in your own medication, so I always have a problem with acid reflux, so I stick some Prilosec in with the med kit, so I always know I've got that with me. And then you want to go through the Band-Aids, because really with these kits they kind of are lacking on enough bandages, like the small bandage and stuff. If you get a small tiny cut, there's very few. They just tend to have a few of those, a few of each size, so you don't want to end up having to put a big Band-Aid on there. Sometimes I'll supplement the bandages with a bunch of little tiny ones, and you'll notice I usually have a Band-Aid on my head here because I got a little bit of skin cancer from too much sun, and so the skin is really thin there, so wearing a helmet it usually cuts it, so I'll put a little cream on there and a little Band-Aid. So I want at least 15 of those Band-Aids on a 15-day trip. And that kind of covers this kit. I'm not going to go into details of everything that's in here, but it's just kind of an idea of what you can get. There are some of these kits that have things for doing a tracheotomy, doing all sorts of things that you may never, ever possibly dream of doing. And if you're not trained in it, you're not going to do it. Probably don't bring it unless you think somebody's going to, that's very debatable, because maybe you'd find somebody that could do that kind of stuff. This is probably a minimal kit to bring with you, and that's what I'll be bringing. I actually noticed I do need to supplement this with some more things, so I'll be putting those in there. And that is our little bit on med kits. That's about it. Best source, really seriously, is talk to your doctor. They'll have lots of ideas, and if you have any medical conditions that require treatment, they might even supplement your gear bag with medications that you might need, any prescriptions. And they've even gone so far as they may give you some higher dosage painkillers in case you get a broken arm or something like that. So good place to start your doctor. Cheers. Hey guys, thanks for tuning in on the med kit, and so medical supplies and chairs, and then cooking gear. So that's number one, that we're kind of going through that. We've done sort of 3 motorcycles as a review. We've done the planning your trip. If you would like to see more, we're going to do tents, and we're going to go through a lot of the motorcycle gear, tools, things like that. So make sure you hit that subscribe button and that little bell icon to be reminded when I put these little videos out. Cheers.